Almost back to Sunday football now, finally. Week 1 is quickly coming up, and before it even starts, it seems like everyone knows exactly how the season's gonna go already. From fantasy gurus to armchair GMs to analytics nerds that, have a ton of information, but it kind of goes over my head, so I just assume they know what they're talking about. Everybody has an opinion. This happens every season though. Some teams are going to be contentious, but for the most part, everyone agrees on which teams will be good and which teams will be bad. Usually though, these predictions are based completely off of last year, with a few exceptions. The notable exceptions this year being the Jets, predicted around 10 wins even though they finished last year 7-10. Of course, expected to be a lot better with the massive quarterback upgrade of Aaron Rodgers. Although last year's exceptions were the Broncos, projected up at 10 wins also, and yeah, that didn't really pan out. But at least Hackett can't ruin things for the Jets. Oh right, I forgot about that. Anyways, what we fail to account for as football fans every year is a team rapidly improving and outperforming our expectations to make the playoffs. It happens every year. At least 2 teams who are projected to be bad or mid end up surprising everybody. So I wanted to find out for myself who it would be this year, before the season even starts. And no, don't be up in my comments with the Lions. Their line is at 9.5. I'm talking like real unexpected. Now, I'm not much of a sports bettor myself, but I'm going to be using the preseason team wins over underlines as my gauge for how much a team exceeded expectations. It's not perfect, but the Vegas betting odds are a good representation of what the general consensus is surrounding a team heading into a season. For the most part, as expected, most eventual playoff teams from last year had high expectations entering the season. Bills and Bucks were at over under 11.5 wins, Chiefs 10.5, Bengals, Chargers, Cowboys, and 49ers all at 10, and the Eagles and Ravens at 9.5. But sportsbooks can definitely make mistakes. 2 of the top 5 in expected wins last year, the Packers and the Rams, both missed the playoffs. And the Buccaneers might have snuck into the playoffs, but finished with a losing record too. Sportsbooks and fans alike also overlook teams all the time. Teams that go on to make the playoffs. So to find out who those teams would be this year, I did some digging and looked at past years of preseason expectations and looked at which type of teams tended to be the ones that exceeded those expectations. My criteria for exceeding expectations is a team that won at least 3 more games than they were expected to win and made the playoffs. We're not talking about the pleasant surprise teams here, we're talking about the teams that came out of nowhere today. Last year's teams that qualify were the Seahawks, Vikings, and Eagles. Seattle from an expected 5.5 wins to 9, Minnesota from 9 to 13, and Philly going from a line of 9.5 to 14 wins. Now, you're going to see that there are only a few obvious categories that these surprise teams fall into no matter the year. The Seahawks fall into the new quarterback category with Geno Smith. The Vikings fall into the 1 more games than they should have category based on winning a lot of close games or a low margin of victory, lower than 2, which the Vikings did both. And the Eagles fall into the 2nd or 3rd year quarterback category and the new coach category. Now, these categories might seem arbitrary, but I promise you they're important. Because there's always an identifiable reason why a team played better than expected. And it's almost always one of these. And finding which current teams fall into those categories will help us identify the teams who could surprise everyone this year. But because of my research and because you watch this video, you won't be the one surprised. You'll be ahead of the rest. So hit subscribe if you want more content from me and join the community to stay in the know. Going back to 2021, the 3 surprise teams were the Raiders, the Titans, and the Bengals. Tennessee from a predicted 9 wins to 12, Vegas from 7 to 10, both of those landing in 1 more than they should have, and the Bengals from 6.5 to 10, and a Super Bowl appearance, of course, in Joe Burrow's 2nd season. 2020 was a very weird year, obviously, with COVID, so Vegas struggled heavily to predict, with 7 different surprise teams. The Colts, Dolphins, and Buccaneers flying high thanks to new quarterbacks, the Bills thanks to the 3rd season breakout of Josh Allen, the Steelers winning 7 one-possession games, and the Browns hitting the rare trifecta. Cleveland had a new coach in Stefanski, coaching 3rd-year Baker, and won 11 games despite a negative margin of victory. The only one that doesn't fall into a category is the Packers, but I'm going to chalk that up to the weird COVID year being the reason why the odds makers gave them a 9.5 line even though they finished with 13 wins the year before. Speaking of the Packers, Vegas also undershot them in 2019 with a line of 9. But that year they did fit a criteria though with new coach Matt LaFleur. The Seahawks, 49ers, and Ravens were all better than expected as well, all for different reasons. Seahawks winning 10 of their 11 by 1 possession. Niners, I'm going to count Garoppolo as a new quarterback because it was the first year he started more than 5 games. And Ravens had Lamar Jackson's sophomore year MVP. 2018, the Bears and the Chiefs defied their expectations, the Bears fitting 2 categories, with of course new coach Matt Nagy and second-year quarterback Trubisky, and the Chiefs with new quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who of course won MVP. But the Saints did also overperform their expectations, one of the few that doesn't tick any of our boxes. 2017, the Vikings with new quarterback Case Keenum, the Jaguars with a new coach Doug Marrone, the Eagles with second-year quarterback Carson Wentz, and the Rams with second-year quarterback Jared Goff and new coach Sean McVay. And 2016, while the Falcons and MVP Matt Ryan don't fit, the other 4 do. The Giants with new coach Bob McAdoo and a bad MOV, the Raiders with 30-year Derek Carr and 9 of their 12 wins by 1 possession, the Dolphins with new coach Adam Gase and a negative margin of victory, and the Cowboys fit in the new quarterback category with rookie quarterback Dak Prescott. Of the 29 teams that have exceeded expectations since 2016, only 3 of them haven't fit in one of these categories. So the next logical step for us is finding out which current teams fit this criteria. So let's see it. Whoa! Yeah, that's a lot. That's over half the teams in the league. But obviously not all of these teams can overachieve though. In fact, most of them won't. So how can we determine which of these 18 teams are going to be the ones that surprise us next season? Well, if a team with a new coach is the one that surpasses their win expectation, it's usually because the coach comes into the season as a relative unknown but ends up being one of the better coaches in the league, like the 2017 Rams with Sean McVay. If a team with a new quarterback does it, it's usually because the bettors undervalue the new QB and he ends up working better in the system than expected, like last year's Seahawks with Geno. And if a team with a second or third-year quarterback does it, it's usually because that's the breakout season for their quarterback, like the 2020 Bills with Josh Allen. Well, the question is then, which of these quarterbacks or coaches do I believe in? Well, let's start that off with crossing some names off the list. The Raiders with a quarterback downgrade Jimmy Garoppolo under the coaching of McDaniels is a no. The Cardinals are not going to be a surprise team without Kyler Murray. If the Bucs could only win 8 last year with Brady, they aren't getting to 10 with Baker. I'm not a huge believer Ridder is the future in Atlanta, so I don't really see a breakout coming. Same with the Packers and Jordan Love, who would have to win 11 to be a surprise team. Carr is an obvious upgrade in New Orleans. I just don't know if I'm enough of a believer in Dennis Allen as a coach to see them win 13 games. And I also don't see the Browns reaching that either in a tough division, even if Watson returns to what he was in Houston. No, not to that, Deshaun, to being a good quarterback. The 49ers will be good with Purdy, but I'm just not sure I see him being anything more than he is right now. He's good, but just doesn't have the ceiling of other guys. And the Commanders, who could be solid, but are the worst team in a stacked division with a quarterback I have yet to see enough from. These remaining 9 are the teams that I could see being one of the surprise teams. But this group is still too big. It will be way too lame and safe of a stance for me to take to just call it here. So I'm going to take my shot at predicting the teams that I think will do it this year. My first pick is going to be a lot of people's first pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars. A first playoff win and steady improvement throughout the year throwing the ball is all the telltale signs I need to see to predict a 30-year breakout from Trevor Lawrence. My second, and probably the one I'm most unsure about, is the Bears. I'm a Justin Fields believer, and with a stud wide receiver now in DJ Moore, it's setting up for a breakout season if he has it in him. The only thing that makes me nervous is the coaching staff. And I'm not sure that the rest of the roster is there yet. Third, I'm going back to the AFC South for the Indianapolis Colts. I know they disappointed last year, and I know their new quarterback is a rookie, but of all the coaches, I believe in Shane Steichen the most to succeed. And outside of the Jags, this division is very weak. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't manage to find a trade, I think they could be one of the surprise teams. And finally, a team I don't see anyone picking, but I feel really good about, Carolina Panthers. They're probably in the weakest division in football with a new yet experienced coach that has playoff games under his belt. And the team finished 7-10 last year with horrible quarterback play. Now they get a definite upgrade at quarterback, even if he is a rookie, in Bryce Young. In this division, I think they have a chance at going 11-6. Those are my picks, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens this season. Maybe I'm psychic, or maybe I get them all wrong. I don't know. But let me know what your picks are down in the comments. Give me at least three teams that you think could do it down in the comment section. If you made it this far, like the video. I'm sure you liked it. And enjoy the rest of your day or night. Later.